My name is Amy, and me and my partner Sol started Kutches to Gaza, which is a mutual aid group that provides assistance to Palestinian refugees in Cairo. So I'd always wanted to go to Egypt because my nan was obsessed with it. She's absolutely obsessed with ancient Egypt. And when she passed away during COVID, I promised that I would go to Egypt and I'd take one of these little dolls that she'd made and I'd bury it at the foot of the pyramids so that part of her could get to Egypt because she'd never managed to get there. And it just all fell into place perfectly because we were going to be so close, so close to Palestine. And with the influx of refugees coming into Cairo, it was just sort of kismet. It just worked out perfectly. We made friends randomly with some people who were working for Safebo, who did direct aid missions there and were evacuating people at the time through the Rafah crossing. And they said to come and work with them, and we could go raise money, go and be Safebo adjacent, and they'd give us their list of people that needed help, and we could go and help them. So I thought that was probably a better monument to my grandmother, to my nan, than just a little doll. It was absolutely terrifying to have literally a backpack just full of cash, just stuffed full of cash. It's like a backpack full to the brim of £200 notes in like Egyptian money. I think in total we gave out almost $750,000 Egyptian in cash when we were there. That's not including the stuff that we've, distributed since we've been back, which is probably more than that again. Yes, we started raising money really late, actually, because it was all kind of a bit, it was like, this is going to happen. Okay, it's happening now. So we started raising money and we'd raised about £1,000 before we left. We thought, oh, that's cool, we'll be able to help a few families. And then when we were out there and people started seeing that we were, doing the work and bringing the receipts, people just started donating. We had thousands donated over a really short period of time. Well, in total, we raised almost 15,000 miraculously. So we got to help so many more families than we were expecting to. We did not sleep. Sleep was not a thing. Sleep was not a thing. We would, we'd get back really late and then I'd be up from midnight to 4 or 5 a.m. Prepping for the next day. So when we'd planned all our cases out, and then when we had this influx of money, we were like, "Ooh, let's get more people." So we just ordered the thing by rents so that we could focus on the poorest people, the people in most need, and we got to help. Double the amount of people, more than double the amount of people we were expecting to. And we got to go back to one family who we'd actually seen the day before, and we'd given them money for physiotherapy sessions and we'd given them money for rent and food. But we'd noticed that they didn't have any beds or mattresses. And they didn't have like a sofa right, that they had, the ones that are like the thin things. So I think the parents were sleeping on that, like these thin things, and the children had these little fold out, like the little kiddie sofas, but no beds at all. And the father had been held by the IDF and tortured, and his leg was really messed up, bless him. And then he's having to sleep on the floor after that as well. He's just never getting the rest that you need. And when we went back, we explained that we'd had more money come in, and we'd noticed that they didn't have mattresses, and would they like some? I think that there's 8 of them. There's six children and 2 adults, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we can work with 2. We can have 2 beds. Will be fine for us." I was like, "No, let's get you sorted. Let's get you sorted while we're here." So we got them good quality mattresses. Ones that I'd have in my house. I hate when people provide things for people that they wouldn't have in their own house. Just because people need help doesn't mean they need trash. So, the most obvious one is rent. Rent is really high in Egypt, especially when you look at it in how much people earn. And obviously Palestinian refugees aren't legally permitted to work. So they're just sort of there. Water, we have different problems with water than we have here. Like a lot of the water that's piped into the houses isn't actually safe to drink without being further filtered. Some people are getting salty water. Some people are just getting unclean water. People are stuck having to pay, I think it works out as about £400 a week for bottled water for like a family, for like a household. And that's quite a lot. Like it's not from a UK perspective because our exchange rate's great, but from an Egyptian perspective, that's a lot of money. So we try to provide them with the 5-step filtration systems. They last for 6 months and they cost, I think it's about 3,000. So just so that people can be spending their money on things that they need to be rather than things that they don't. Yeah, the water can be very dangerous in Egypt. It's not a good plan to drink unfiltered water, is it? Everyone is traumatized. Like everyone we meet is traumatized. The children are traumatized. The adults are traumatized. It's a really hard situation. And some people have very obvious trauma and some people have less obvious trauma. We've got a couple of people who have quite obvious identity alteration, which is to be expected when you consider that, you know, how long this conflict is ongoing, 75 years and counting. And it's quite hard to get people into any sort of psychiatric care because of the stigma. So although we have resources that we're able to direct people to, they don't tend to take us up on it. We find that people take us up on it for the children, but not for their adults. It's really hard to get people to accept the help because they're just like, no, I'm fine. It's like, oh, nobody is fine after going through like what people in Palestine have been going through. Yes. We have managed to deliver 3 bicycles now to children, 2 boys and a girl. And we try to put sort of care packages together for people when we've got a little bit of extra money. So we've done menstrual care packages, hot water bottles and chocolate and nuts and things so that, you know, people can feel a little bit more human. It's horrible when you've got like cramps and you just want to sit on the sofa and you have no money and you can't even have a hot water bottle. It's just not fair. And we do like toy packages for the children. The way that we usually work it is that when we're ordering for a family, we'll tack on like some extras for the children. Even if it's like some toys or games or like summer pajamas, because it's absolutely boiling in Egypt at the moment and people have very little. So it's just nice to be able to give the kids something to allow them to be children, to allow them to play. Most people, I think, are aware play is absolutely fundamental to children's well-being. And we want to make sure that the kids are being looked after. I experienced nothing but acceptance and joy from the families that we visited. Like, they do not care. They're not interested in anybody's relationships or sexuality. Like, they just didn't care. They want you to hold their babies and drink their tea and bring you little home-cooked snacks or little, like, people even, one lady emptied her purse to give it to me as a gift. People have nothing and they still want to give you something. So that there's a, it's reciprocal. There's a trade that you're giving them something, they're giving you something. It feels better. And those things that we were given are like most prized possessions now. The funniest thing that happened was when we actually went back to the family with the mattresses. We went back with 6 mattresses and it was up 7 flights of stairs with no elevator. So I come and try to pick up the mattress and all the men rush up to me. They're like, no, you can't, like clutching their pearls. Women can't carry things. And I was like, okay, I don't want to carry it up 7 flights of stairs, that's fine. And then Sol comes in, she's like, and they're like, no, yes, no, yes. And that was it. That's the discrimination. They let her carry mattresses. Yeah, no one murdered us or threw us off buildings or, did anything awful or even gave us a side eye. Like, no one even gave us a dirty look, but they did make her carry mattresses. It's like positive discrimination. She was able to do anything that girls could do and anything that boys could do. They let her do whatever she wanted. Whereas I was made to sit down with the children. The border is a nightmare. It's a nightmare. The whole thing is a nightmare. It's unbelievably unfair. So how it was working was that you would go to Hala Travel Company in Egypt and pay in cash in new $100 bills, a cost of $2,500 per child and $5,000 per adult. If someone were to be heavily pregnant and to give birth before the name was called, even if it was the day before, they will charge an extra $2,500 for the baby. And there were people that we know that had that happen. A lot of that money is going to the governments. A lot of it is in bribes. Before October, it was about $300 to travel between. And now the prices, they have come down. They did initially, they went up, they were asking for like $12,000 or $15,000 per person. So they did come down and they stabilized at the 2.5 and 5 mark. Unfortunately, the border's been closed now for almost 2 months. We are expecting the border to reopen, but we're not sure on when. There's differing things that looks like it's something that will happen, but we don't know. We don't know the timescales. The big push now is to get people's evacuation fundraisers full so that as soon as that border reopens, everyone can just get them on the list and get them out and get them to safety. Because watching the IOF pick off members of what I now consider to be my friends' families, just slowly, just like the family that we are looking to fund the evacuation for the 2 children and their mum. They've lost 3 family members since we've been raising the funds. So in the month and a half that we've been raising the funds for them, they've lost 2 uncles and a cousin. And it's just awful to watch it happen. So there's nothing you can do. You can't get them out right now. And we can't stop Israel from destroying everything. It's just watch them be less and less and less. It's awful. It's not ideal. It's not ideal, but we don't live in an ideal world. And these people need to get out. They need to move from... It's a catch pen where they're just waiting to be killed. That's it. They're just encircled, waiting to die. And it doesn't matter who's getting that money. What matters is that we are getting these people out. Anything else we can deal with that after. Like, there's time for bringing charges against people who have been war profiteering, but the most important thing is to get these people out. So the mutual aid networks that I work with, there's like 3 of us and we have like a master trackers. We all work together. So you're supposed to fill out the form and then someone will contact them in about a month. Because of the situation, because of how it is, a lot of the time these people come in with really high needs immediately. So some people might come in with 3 months back rent needing to be paid, their risk of being evicted within the next few days. If they come in to a person, they would sort of queue jump a little, where we would try to sort out the immediate pressing need, and then we would pop them back onto the list then to wait for their proper case manager, which takes about a month. We've got about 500 families on the trackers. It is a very cash-heavy thing. Like, you're looking at about an average of between 5,000 and 10,000 Egyptian per family for rent. Same again for food, and that's without any like medical expenses or transport costs or anything else that people might need. And there is a huge problem at the moment with donor fatigue because of how long this genocide is going on. people are giving and giving and giving and giving, and at some point people have to stop. So we're finding it more and more difficult to find donors, and the need for the funds is just growing. You know, people are coming in with some pretty horrible injuries as well, some operations that need doing, and they can be expensive. There are so many things that you can do to help. Even just spreading awareness is helping so much. Little things, like even if it's not to do with directly helping Palestinians, but even just things like wearing a kafaya, even things like wearing a little Palestine pin badge, talking about Palestine to your friends, to your family, to your colleagues. Make sure that Palestine is on the tip of your tongue, because we need it to be at the forefront of our minds. We need it to be at the forefront of what we're working towards. And we also need to realize that Palestine is the test ground for what is to come. And I honestly believe that if we allow them to succeed in Palestine, they will bring this level of authoritarianism to the rest of the world, because I think it's the only way that capitalism gets to stick around, and the people at the top do sure like capitalism. We vet all of our clients. We vet all of the families that come through our identity checks. So they will all have provided either their passport and visa to show their entry stamp for when they came into Egypt, or their one-time travel document, because a lot of people don't have their passports and things. So they would have traveled on a one-time travel document. That lets us know the date that they traveled and who they traveled with. Some people who were in Cairo beforehand and can't get back, they usually come for medical treatment or study, and then couldn't get back to their families, ran out of money. You know, we support these people as well. They provide the documentation for, you know, what they were doing in Cairo at the time, like when they were supposed to return. Like, we have a shared tracker where we have the family's details, what they've received, what they need, who's looking after them. So we assign case managers to manage families. We've got people who are living in Egypt, and then we've got people who are like coming in from other countries. So there's always like a rotation between the foreign nationals coming in to help, which is important because we have trouble due to Egypt's fundraising laws. So it's actually illegal to fundraise in Egypt. You can donate to an individual, or you can donate to an individual family, but you cannot collect funds and then distribute them. It's illegal. So all of the collection has to be done by foreign nationals. And then we match Egyptians up with individual families then, which is something that Egyptians for Palestinians, which is one of the mutual aid networks that we work with, they're really good at doing that. They get wealthy Egyptian families to donate like a set amount each month, which then pays for their sort of adopted Palestinian families' rent and food, which is wonderful. Trying to get help into Gaza is really hard now. It's really, really hard. We do have contacts. We have contacts in Mawasi for tents and food aid, but it's really hard. Like, people are starving to death. It's a horrible, horrible situation. We have people between the mutual aid networks. There are 3 or 4 people who are working inside Gaza, who've got initiatives inside Gaza to I know one of my friends is making tents. So he makes tents and gives them to people. And he helped us get a tent for the wife and children of one of the gentlemen that we look after, who were stuck. He had thought that he would be able to save up the money to pay for their crossing, because he was already in Egypt when the thing closed, and he thought, I'll be able to do it. I'll be able to save my family. I'll be able to work. And no. He hasn't been able to do any of it, and he's ended up, you know, needing support for rent and food himself. And then his wife and children were hit in, I think it's in Jabalia, in the refugee camp in Jabalia, and their tent burned. So they went to the hospital, and we managed to get them a tent for when they were released from the hospital then, which is it's brilliant. He sent some pictures of the children like in front of their tent, looking very happy. It's like, there's so many, so many. I met so many wonderful people. Yeah, so Sarah's husband. So Sarah's husband is the only person that we've so far managed to evacuate, and he was our miracle, because trying to get men out is really hard. It's impossible to get men out. We really thought that we would just lose the money, because if they won't evacuate you, as long as your name is on the thing, they still count that. Yeah. And single men are really hard to get out. And I'm thinking that actually the reason that he might have got out is because it was so close to the border being closed, that they might have been more concerned with, internal stuff that was going on about that, because they must have had some warning. And I think he crossed 2 days before the border closed. So I think they might have just been a little bit lax on it, because he was a fighting age man. It was a miracle that we got him out. And his wife and children were overjoyed. Like, I've never seen someone so happy. His wife is lovely. She's really, really sweet. And they're so in love. Like, they are just obsessed with each other. You can see every time she looks at him, she's like stars in her eyes. And they'd never been separated. And then suddenly they had this enforced separation. They didn't see each other for 7 months. And she had to know that she'd left him, like, to protect their children. But the trauma of that on her, like, we talked about it quite extensively. And she was just heartbroken that to save her children, she'd had to leave her love. And she pushed really hard. Like, she's amazing. Sarah is amazing. She's a lawyer, and she works with a lot of community development in Gaza. She focused on things like women and children's rights and supporting like domestic abuse survivors and things like that. It's really humbling to be able to be part of someone's story when they're doing so much for their community and they're helping so many people within their community. And then for them to need help outside of their community and for us to be able to be there it's really wonderful. Like, it's something that I feel really proud of. She's an exceptional human, and I'm really glad that we could put her family back together. Yes, we've got a PayPal pool running at the moment for Remus, Oma, and Sana. They're my friend Nisreen's mum and 2 siblings. Nisreen is absolutely traumatized by what is going on. And she messages me every single day, absolutely beside herself. Like, her family are starving. They're being bombed. They're dying one by one.
Hello, Amy. I'm Mess, and I love you, and you're my friends. But, Amy, please help me. I can't sleep of sound of the rocket. I tried and afraid. And we know clothes and our food. It's a little.
And in the time that we've been fundraising for them, they've actually lost 3 additional family members from within those that live together. So the family unit that lives together. The uncle and cousin and brother were going to collect food, going to find aid. And when they were walking back, the brother fell behind because he was tired, and saw his uncle and his cousin bombed and exploded in pieces in front of him. She said that he wouldn't stop. Like, when she spoke to him, he was just crying and crying and crying and rambling about pieces. That's all he could, pieces flying past him. Like, how? I can't. It's too much. It's too much for people. And for him to have to see that, go back to the tent, explain that to people who were waiting for food, who were starving, and then know that the next day he has to go out by himself and do it again, alone. We're expecting so much of these people. It's so much more than humans are supposed to bear. In the same family, Last week, Nisrin's father went out to try and catch some fish. They're in Mawassi, so they're by the coast. And because of his malnourished state, he got into distress in the water and spent 3 hours floundering at sea before someone rescued him. And then 3 days ago, they lost another uncle in another bombing. And it's so hard knowing that the border is closed and knowing that at the moment we can't get them out. But it really does give you a push to get it done so that when that border reopens, we can be straight on it, done. Because they're just kids. Remus is 13 and Omar is 3. They're little children. She sends me messages like begging me by name, Amy, please. If I don't get that kid out, she's on my soul forever. If that child dies, she's on my soul. I have to get her out. It's seeing that people can make beautiful lives despite all of this. It's seeing people's joy. One of the families that we visited doing cash aid, were a lovely couple. They had come to Egypt to do IVF, to give their 16-year-old son a brother or sister, which he desperately wanted. And while they were there, the genocide broke out, and their son was murdered in the bombing. So they had come to Egypt hoping to extend their family, and they had lost the family that they had. And it was just so devastating. Just from an outside perspective, it was devastating. I can't imagine what that mother felt like. But 3 weeks ago, they came to us and told us that she's pregnant. So that's something that, like, things like that are what we hold on to. Like, she's pregnant, and we now pay for the medication that allows her to continue her pregnancy. So people who've been supporting us have been paying for her meds. So if you're donating to Kutches to Gaza at the moment, we are funding the evacuation, and then we are funding what we consider to be sort of general needs costs. So those are rents for, I think it's 31 families we've got on our books. Rent, food and medical supplies for those. But we are also focusing at the moment on care packages, particularly for children, because when people are so concerned with the absolute basics, with rent, food, water, medical care, it doesn't leave very much space for play. And it doesn't leave very much space to allow children to be children. And the only thing that's going to limit the amount of trauma that they have is being able to be kids, is being able to play and forget about it and process things. So, we're trying to get toys that they can do things like that with. So we're trying to get like soft toys for comfort, like STEM toys for, so they can build things and it can help their development, and things like role play toys, so like dolls or like tea sets, things that they can, play with others and have like that relationship between people, and games that they can play with their family. So we try to give them like a bit of a more rounded sort of childhood than they're experiencing at the moment, because we've got families that can't even afford to get their kids clothes or shoes, let alone toys like this. But from a trauma-informed perspective, I know how absolutely fundamental play is to children's well-being, and I think that that's something that we're definitely going to be placing more of an emphasis on in the future as well, especially once we get into a swing of things where we know like where the rents and things are coming from each month for our families. We'll be able to work in hopefully more care packages for the children. We were so naive. We thought we would go out there and do, 2 weeks direct aid, give all cash out, everything's like, oh, look, we helped, and then go home and go back to our life. That can't happen. It can't happen. This is everything we do now. And it is at the forefront of my mind all the time. I'm constantly looking for, where can I get money for this? Where can I get money for that? How can I transfer, a mum of 4 medication money for her baby? How can I get this elderly lady her cancer treatment? How can I, pay for anything? How can I do all of these things that people need? And I need your help. We need everyone's help. And we need to not let the world forget about Palestine. Like, we have to keep talking about it. It has to be at the forefront of everything that we do. When we are looking at what we can do, that we are being intersectional, that we are looking at where these intersections of control are. Because the people who are funding, the war in Sudan, the same people that are funding the war in Palestine, it's all linked. Our liberation is all linked. And either we're going to free us all, or we're all going down. And I think it is really, really important that we continue to see the humanity of the people in Palestine. I think especially when we're coming up now to these huge numbers, where we're looking at potentially up to 200,000 now that they're saying dead or missing, because the official statistics haven't changed since December, which is insane. So they killed everyone that took the lists, and then were like, oh no, the lists have stayed the same. It's like, no, you murdered everyone that was writing them down. So these are people with full humanity. Like, they're not numbers. They are full humans, and every single one that is winked out of existence will never exist again. That is a pure, bright human flame that will never be. It's just gone. And we need to stop it. We need to stop what they're doing. We need to do everything we can. We need to raise our voices. We need to put our money where our mouth is. And we need to escalate as if our lives depend on it, because they do. Palestine is the litmus test right now. And if you can't see the danger inherent in what they're doing, I think you need to look a little harder. Because what they are doing to these people in Palestine, they will export. Israel is using Gaza as a weapons testing facility. They are raining down white phosphorus on children. They are dropping 2,000-pound bunker buster bombs on tents. We're seeing children with no heads, with shredded limbs. We're seeing children take their last gasping breaths on camera, and we cannot let them die in vain. Every single life is absolutely precious, but we have to see them as individuals. We cannot let them become this monolith of just deaths in this humanitarian crisis, because it is not a humanitarian crisis. It is a man-made, intentional thing. We have done this. And Western communities, Western countries, it's our governments. People will tell you, oh, what business is it of yours in Palestine? We're in the UK, or we're in America, or we're in France, or we're in Germany. These are the people who are doing this. It is not Arabs that are doing this. It's us. It's Westerners. Gaza has oil and gas, and we want it, and we don't want to pay for it. So we want to slaughter everyone there so that we can steal it. Don't let them twist it. Don't let them tell you that it's to do with religion, or that it's to do with culture. It's not. It's absolutely not. People do. People like to say that it is a complicated situation. There is nothing complicated about children being exploded and bombed and shot and sniped and starved. It is the simplest thing in the world. You have people's humanity in your hands, and you can do something about it.